0% financing.
Wow.
850. So, so yeah, doctor loans are super popular.
What is that loan called when they start at a certain? Yes.
An arm.
Is it amortized payment over time? Can they do these loans?
The doctor loan? Yes. They're still amortized. There is a fixed rate. How are we doing, Mandy?
Good.
Keep going or start winding
You
down?
can finish the question, your questions.
Okay, so an ARM, adjustable rate mortgage, ARM. ARMs were not very popular when they were super low, and now they've come back into favor. So if I'm quoting you like 5.875, if you look at an ARM, I'm close to 5.25.
Yeah.
So there's a considerable amount of savings to be gained. So if it's a 5.1 ARM or a 5.6 ARM, that means it's fixed for 5 years. It will adjust in year 6. If it's a 5.6 ARM, that means it's adjust for 5 years, and it can adjust every 6 months after that. Okay.
So
If it's a 10.1 ARM, it's fixed for 10 years. I'm sorry.
So the interest rate's fixed, it can't go lower from, 3, it can't go higher. So
Whatever the market starts at. So most of my stuff's bouncing around 5 and 4 right now. So we'll start there. It'll stay like that for a while. Thanks, Mandy. Back to you.
As a reminder, we are on Facebook Live. Everything John said has been recorded, so we can hold him to it after.
Oh
So that was exciting, right? Under 6%.
Mhm.
So we should get out there and spread that news. There's never really a scary moment if you needed a house. I always want to make sure you can eat and afford the property, right? So let's talk about appraisals for a while. Let me ask you, how do you feel about appraisers? Do you have any feelings? Well, this class is neutral. So it's kind of like the market. It feels like our class is neutral on the feelings. Like that line is right in the middle of a negotiable market. What's up, Jordan?
I would say for me personally, the past year and a half, well, less than a year and a half, it's been so crazy. Because appraisals have been
Above.
or having to have new appraisals. So now it's I like them. I love knowing that, like, when my client closes on a house, every house that I've closed on this past couple months, there's been like, appraisal approach.
In an appraisal world, everything's based on the historic market. And how far back again do we go when trying to justify a price point for a client? Well, that's the
30
furthest we
days.
try to go.
30 days.
30 days.
6
Oh,
months.
now, yeah.
Okay, we're really,
It's so crazy.
How many closed homes you can get and how close?
right.
It's all dependent on that.
The rule of thumb has always been 90 days. But like you just said, if we go 90 days back, was that a different feel of a market? So if you can try to stay as close as possible, but how many close properties do we need to justify a value in the last 90 days? 3. They're always going to do a basis of 3 close. So, and you want really, like we talked about last week, that apple to apple look at it, like the least adjustments you could be making, right? And then in the city of Phoenix, where we all live, or the suburbs of Maricopa County, you try to stay within the subdivision, and then you do a half a mile radius out without crossing major arteries, meaning for amenities or zip codes, and then you go from there. When I was teaching up in Flagstaff a few weeks ago, the feedback was, Mandy, you can't talk about zip codes. It doesn't apply like it does in Maricopa County, because if you cross Greenway, it's a different zip code, right? You cross Tatum, it's a different zip code. And I said, well, why is that? They say, because we only have 4.
That is true, but there are parts of 86004 that I would never live in.
Right. So you know the amenities shift. So I always say amenity shifting, which for us is usually zip codes and school district. But when you're dealing with more rural areas, keep in mind this is why geographic competency is so important. It's not always zip codes. It's seriously what side of the train tracks are you on? Because when you get off on I-40, from I-40 and Flag, you go left over the train tracks, or you go right on the other side of the train tracks. And they call that East and West Flagstaff. Whereas when we're talking about Phoenix, Arizona, have you ever just looked up the boundaries of Phoenix, Arizona? It's huge, huge. And you get all kinds of living throughout Phoenix, Arizona. You get country living, which Craig's in there right now saying, yes, I have chickens and I will be delivering eggs. And then you get rural living in northern Phoenix sometimes. And then you have city living, and then you have suburb living. So we need to kind of think about how we're talking to the appraiser. So what's a good question if you are the listing agent and you receive the appointment phone call from the appraiser? What would be a great way of asking, do you have geographic competence in this area? Because I'm going to tell you, if you ask someone if they're competent, they're going to be offended. And this is the only reason we can deny an appraiser. So what would be a great way to start the conversation?
Have you done appraisals in this area in the past?
That's a good way. Okay. And then thinking about that house specifically, what would your follow-up question be?
That house specifically?
I like that question because the area does matter, but 5 miles feels like I've been in that area, right? In the neighborhood. How about, you know, they always say it's better to come from a place when you're trying to question somebody of naiveness on your side just to get their answer right. And I'm not saying any of you are naive. But I like to say, you know, I kind of struggled a little bit with comps in the area. What major cross streets or area, what would you say within for your boundaries when comping out this property? Because Arcadia, for instance, is not comparable to what we call Arcadia Light, right? So you have this one home and nothing's closed in the last 6 months. So, you know, I said 6 months is like really the maximum you want to go out. They will go out an entire year and make time of adjustment, time of sale adjustment. It's hot, right? Like it's not just me this time, Marcia.
I'm neutral, just like the appraisal.
Love you. AKA Mandy, take off your coat. Okay. And so you want to try to stay within a certain region because would you agree when you leave Arcadia, the amenities change, the crime rates change, the school districts change, right? So that's like a pinpoint area. Or let's talk about historic Phoenix. There's like 2 streets, like Coronado is so pretty, right? And then you get to 7th Street and you're at Circle K and you're like,
I would really appreciate you not talking about me.
I love that.
I live right there. I live at that Circle K.
Well, don't
Like,
throw
right
my
behind
age on. I promise you're gonna get on a good topic. So when I was dating my husband, and this is gonna sound weird, but this plays in my geographic competency. What we would do is, well, we were 20, well, I was 20, I don't pay attention to his age anymore. And he had this little crotch rocket motorcycle. And so it was like $5 for a tank. And then we were just like out for a good time and trying to, you know, we were 20, we had no money. And so we would stop at that Circle K and we would hang out and people watch and spend $2 on our cappuccino and sit in the parking lot until something scary happened, and then we would jump on the motorcycle and leave.
It was like anytime after 5 p.m.
And you know the sun was down by the time I was having a helmet on. So knowing that I can't leave the boundaries for the house pricing, I can't really compare a 1930 house that hasn't been taken care of. And it is historic, but it's not refurbished in the same way of who's classified themselves historic Phoenix, right? So you gotta like look at these boundary issues as geographic competence, which is the only thing we can deny an appraiser on. Now you find out the appraiser has only been working in Surprise, Arizona, and now he's working in historic Phoenix, and you're sitting there and you're like, okay, everything in Surprise, for the most part, I'm just gonna let you know, there's certain sides of reams, is comparable to each other. You know, they're all cookie cutter homes for the most part. There's always gonna be your different properties, and then you look at your year builds. And there's plenty of comps and Surprise to justify Surprise within the subdivision at all times. Okay, and then this appraiser, even though it's Maricopa County, is now gonna do my listing in historic Phoenix. Now I'm gonna sit there and take a little deep breath. And even if the home is vacant, you okay, John? Okay.
No, I struggle, but it's
Okay.
okay, it's good.
I just look up and I'm like, oh no. And so what needs to occur is I need to tell them no. But I don't have authority to tell them no. So what I need to say is, hey, I'm so glad you're gonna come out to the property. Let me just confirm with my clients that they're gonna have all the handyman and everything out of the house at the time you're gonna go see it, because they'll say it's vacant. And I'll just, do you want me to text or email you back to confirm the time? Get their contact, And then I'm gonna immediately call the lender. We'll first talk to your seller, and I'm gonna say, hey, the appraiser that's been assigned to this property is not geographically competent in the area, and this is what I asked, and this is what's answered. I want to request that the AMC, the appraisal management company, reassign. The sellers don't want to move forward. However, this could bite you before I go there, Dave. The AMC could say, no, I'm not reassigning Maricopa County, in our opinion, it's Maricopa County. So you have to be really professional and not say anything, to say, my seller's concerned, because I passed on our conversation that he hasn't worked outside, or she hasn't worked outside of Surprise, Arizona, and this area is so different than Surprise. You have to say in such a way that no matter what, you're gonna offend here, but in case you're not reassigned, you're not stabbing yourself in the back, right? So just be aware they don't have to reassign, but this is the only thing you can argue on. And now if the appraisal doesn't come in, I better look for every single thing that would say, hey, they weren't competent in their findings. And I have to base everything off actually written adjustments, or I'm looking for square footage mishaps, I'm looking for typos. You are going to start seeing a change in the marketplace when it comes to loving appraisers. And we always love to blame them, but honestly, their job is to dictate value based on their professional opinion, and they have years in, not just hours in, of apprenticeship to even get to the level they're at. So you're supposed to just play nice, right? So today, my goal is to teach you how to be more proactive, which that was step one, asking more questions, smiling on the phone, and sometimes listening when they try to be like, oh, Jen, I'm so thankful, because, the realtor community knows nothing about what I do, actually. You just go, oh, I understand. Tell me more. But Dave, you had a certain point you wanted to make.
So, yeah, I know there's a difference between just being licensed and
Uh-huh.
being certified, big difference.
Yeah,
So licensed, pass. Certified is what you want. I found that out. And how, other than Google, what's the best way to find
you
out?
can ask them, of course, that's going to, again, be a little off, but it is your job, right? Like, just know you're gonna do, hey, I was at this class the other day, and they were teaching the difference between being a licensed appraiser and a certified appraiser. And I just kind of was wondering, how does that really play out in your world, and where are you on it? Just out of curiosity, because I was in a class that was talking about it. And then a licensed appraiser will say, that's not certified, oh, that's just hocus pocus, it's like going to CE hours and having all those things behind your name, it means nothing, blah, blah, blah. And you go, oh, awesome, that's really great feedback, I appreciate it. But here's the thing, it's not up to you or your seller truly if they're licensed or certified. Now you know what to look at stronger, and that you better do more upfront work, but the AMC does not have to reassign them. And that's the hardest part to realize, because even if our seller's like, oh, I'm not sure about them, they don't work for the seller and they don't work for the buyer. They work for the lender.
Right.
And they're securing the lender's asset. So what we need to know is what's happening, so we can be more proactive and then reactive to what comes in, right? Because I can't predict what comes in,
Right.
But proactive in the front, because also table appraisals, if you have enough down payment, is really real. And I know for a fact people sit in Michigan, because I don't know why Michigan's like a hub for people sitting in call centers. And they will just pull numbers, and they have no smell ability or sight of the property. They're just going off of the computer system, and that's a table appraisal. And they'll go off that value. BPOs, broker price opinions, that's done by us. That's usually done by us in the event of an estate sale. Someone going into pre-foreclosure. In short sales, right? They hire agents to fill out their forms for like $50, and you pay us $25. But the key is, right, you're trying to get in case something happens there and it goes back to the bank, that you could get that listing. And I will say for years, BPOs have been flawed because agents wanted the listing on the REO side when it went back to the bank. So they'd hire us and they're like, well, I have this in, and if I appraise it, price point it just a little high, and they can't make their numbers work here, even though we're not supposed to do that, right? Well, at least they'll go back to the bank, and then maybe I'll get that listing. So sometimes what happens is the flaw of the systems, and you're right, certified appraisal is what you want, However, it might not be what you get. So you want to be careful. John, any 2 cents at this point?
Not at this point.
Okay,
I will tell you, on the AMCs, they have a list, a rotating list. So when we place an order, we don't know who that's going to be. And lenders are not allowed to talk to the appraiser. We have to go through the AMC.
right.
Just so you know.
Now, appraisal management.
Oh, management.
And what's really important to note, Kate, about that is, right before I go to you, Marcia, sorry, I had it on the tip of my tongue, is that as a buyer's agent, you can direct your lender to put you in as the point of contact to make the appointment on the home. Because not all listing agents believe in what I'm about to tell you. A lot of them, a lot of realtors like to sit back and be like, what happens, happens, let them do their thing. And we do need our buyer and seller's permission in order to be proactive. Because some buyers and sellers will say, let them do their thing, we'll see and we'll renegotiate, you know. Maybe the buyer is being difficult and they already knew that they were at the cusp of maybe appraising, maybe not appraising. And that could throw out the whole deal and they just want that buyer to go away. Well, unless it's FHA, that whole appraisal goes away with that buyer, right? So they're like, bye-bye, farewell, it's not Martha. It's ding donging. It's pretty though.
Yeah.
And so those are things to keep aware. You need your client's permission for everything we do. But at the end of the day, it's not a bad idea to be that point of contact on behalf of your buyer. Because does the buyer typically need the home to appraise? Does the buyer typically at this point just want the home? So why wouldn't the buyer want us to be proactive, right? Now, Marcia, what's your question?
That was interesting what you brought up, that, nothing to do with that. But, so now you intercede as the buyer's agent, and you're the call from the appraiser. How does that happen?
Well, you say, great, let me confirm that time that you want to go out to the property. What I would like to do is the buyer has requested on the buyer's behalf to send you some comparables to justify why they offered and went under contract for what they went under contract for. Could I get your email? Awesome. Let me go ahead and set that time up with the seller. And I will get right back with you.
Okay. Yeah, and then my aside was, there is a DPO, there's a moniker to that, because I've done them in another life. When I did reload, I was on a reload team. And there you're really on the money, because you're gonna list that property for the relocation office for IBM or Joe Schmo Corporation, right?
You know, and that's a great point, Marcia. In today's marketplace of Maricopa County continually growing. As Realty One Group, we're not going to go out and be doing any accounts. Why? Because you're an independent contractor and everybody's a different cat and there's always a cut to something. But why aren't you out there talking to HR people or headhunters? Why are we only marketing to consumers when we know that one of the largest manufacturing companies or tech companies is going into North Peoria right now? Why don't you dig deeper on WeServe, WESERV, GAD, GAD.org? Find out more information about those companies. Start trying to plug in and say, who is placing people? How would I apply if I was applying for a job there? Who would I go through? What do I have to do to get the reload business? Because we're having a relocation companies come in from overseas right now. You're going to see this huge amount of our eastern regions come in to Maricopa County, and it's awesome. But how do you get in front of that traffic? How do you become the one that, even though I might help them find an apartment for free, by the way, they're going to know that I'm their go-to for home resource? How do you
That
become?
idea for me. There goes my secret weapon.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I'm just saying, like, as you, as a human being that has a service to provide, why aren't you walking in these places with a nice resume? Why aren't you applying to be their realtor for the company? I want to have you guys have a go-to source. Why don't you create business relationships within the company here, the office? Like, look at this great group of people right now. There's not, you, like Jen, I know you're going to try to like help 10 people at one time, but would you never sleep and do something end up wrong? Yeah, because you're one person. So why can't there just be this vast pool of professionals that aren't truly, like, I'm not asking you to team up, but like you all go in and say, hey, I have a pool of people that can assist you guys, you know, and go get that business. Why don't you do it? I know it's terrifying, but you walk in and you just have confidence and you just rock it. And you give sweet treats with it too. You know, those ice cream bars, take a cooler with you in August and pass out popsicles. Have a freezer. I mean, just, come on, guys, how much do we love ice cream? We're just humans too. So are the HR headhunters. They're not scary. They're very C personality, so be ready to be analyzed, but they are not scary. Use the brokerage numbers. Talk about what your office does. You know, everything I give you guys, use it to make it about you. I'm just here to say, yes, they're wonderful. Yes, they're fabulous. Yes, they'll do a good job for you. I'm your yes man. They need a call boss. They need a title. I'm call me. Just give me a heads up. Have resources. So ideas here, while price pointing and justifying for an appraiser also comes out of, okay, how do we do things as professionals? Is how do you get more business?
So in the really quick, so going back to what you were saying with the buyer, like having buyer station in the appraisal of a certain area, you can also do that in reverse. Like if we're offering a lower than list price, don't need it to go to list, we need it to go under because that's what we believe the comps are doing in the area. Like we can also like show them the comps like in that way.
You wouldn't be moving forward in good faith then. So you would actually be breaking the law of contract laws.
Okay.
So if the true belief is, oh crap, we offered too much and we want it to come in lower, you do nothing.
No, not offered too much. We offered lower.
Oh, okay.
And then because the comps are pointing to not what they have it listed at.
Oh, all I want to do is justify contract price.
Okay.
All I care about is contract price.
So that's the same difference.
Yeah, not list price, contract price. So wherever I'm on contract.
Okay.
So yeah, I was like, wait, if your goal though is to throw off an appraiser, that would be not moving forward in good faith. No, I do have people like, well, then I'll just give them the whole inspection report. Because I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen right now. You were denied. It's fully denied, good luck. But I'm gonna say that's not a standard of practice and that you purposely put a wrench in and you weren't moving in good faith to actually find the value of the property. Nobody gives a copy of the appraisal. I mean, the inspection to an appraiser, right? So if the goal is not to hit contract price, you're fine. You're just trying to hit contract price, right? But if the goal is not to hit here and you're a buyer rep, you do nothing. You just say, yay, I got an easy game. I do nothing. I don't even care to talk to the appraiser. You do nothing. But if your goal is to get contract price, I always do something, even if it's lower than list price. Yes, ma'am.
Two questions, two situations, I guess I should say. One, the listing in Monsoon, previous listing said, say, 2,400 square foot. The last person that had it on the market said 2,900 square foot. That's one situation. Another situation, somebody just says that they added square foot. Should I ask for appraisal before we go to market, so they would have something to?
Yeah, I would definitely do that. Oh, I didn't even think that.
No, that's, but that was it. Should I have an appraisal to verify square footage?
Yeah, because you're not gonna measure, right? We never inspect or justify. So what you're gonna look for in the tax records to see if there was a permit taken out of it. Yeah, okay, so that tells you that even if you've added square footage to your property, it will have no value because it was not permitted addition. And for a home's added square footage to add value, it needs to have in Maricopa County. And they keep correcting me up north, you know, we don't need AC, we need heat. And I'm like, something's wrong. You need to have air conditioning and a split system or off the main. You can't just be an added patio with no livable, you know, only half the year you can be out there kind of concept. So I would say that adds no value at this point, but they can honestly, a seller can hire an appraiser to do a partial, like not a full-blown appraisal.
Like the copy under contracts people do. They do that.
Oh, yeah, they have something that they can do to
They
help,
can do beforehand.
but they're not an appraiser, they're an
That's
inspector.
just inspector.
That won't
Yeah.
change on this.
Joseph's appraisal group is my favorite, and that's Jay Joseph.
He's the man.
He's the man.
All these
He-
notes from him, I'm just reviewing here. Great.
Jay and I love Jay.
He is amazing.
Yeah, and I've had him review my stuff before, just to make sure I was on the right ballpark of teaching. And he's always like, no one ever gives me this. I'm like, it's because you haven't done one in my house. My agents will give you this. Sorry, I'm a little possessive when we're out of the office. I belong to you while we're here, but when I'm gone, I'm like, am I? All right.
So Mandy, what's on Monsoon should reflect the tax record, right? That's Friendly
Right.
County.
Now, if for marketing reasons, if an owner tells me it's 2,900 square feet, but I'm on soon, it's only 2,700, and they want me to list it at 2,900, I'm not gonna make a measure of the house. What I'm gonna do in MLS is I'm gonna put 2,900 square feet, and then I'm gonna put verified by owner.
Okay.
It's not verified by me. You don't have to always check tax assessor. You can say owner. And then I'm gonna let my client know, be prepared for that extra 200 square feet, not to have any value. Also, one thing before we get started on this, one thing you will not see on this is price per square foot. I want price per square foot taken out of your vocabulary. It means nothing. All price per square foot does for you is helps you understand an area and if it sustains its value and if there's potential for growth. And like for flippers, like if you do an area and everything's showing 179 a square foot, and this one house is showing so low, right? I know. Okay, 250 a square foot. I still live in the beginning of my career because it still makes me happy. And we used to be like, I'm so normal. Now 250 a square foot. And this one house is coming at 185. What does that mean? I need to look further into this one house. There might be flipping potential, right? There might be a fix-up potential. And there's values really sustaining here. But think about it. If I make $200, I'm just gonna be easy math, okay? And I times it by 200 square feet, that's a $40,000. Yeah, you do not add, you have to agree with me here, right? Like this common sense. You do not add $40,000 to comps to justify 200 square feet. Number one, you're double dipping because usually that 200 square foot has a fourth bedroom. Either I add value for the bedroom and the extra bathroom, but I'm not going to add value as well for the 200 square feet because then I'm like 60,000 up now. How do I justify that over 200 square feet? So we got to think, it's not about price per square foot. It's about adjustments in an area based on paired sales. So third car bay, fourth bedroom. When you start going into the square footage realm, if you need to make adjustments on square feet, I would like to tell you, and you can verify with Jay. I love him. Yeah, he makes me happy because I was.
We should bring him in.
I think he works with an AMC that's owned by Robert Oglesbury, which is a very nice man, but no one teaches like Jay, right? But I'll get him again. I had him a few years ago. If you have to add based on square footage, you take the total amount of square footage, you do price it by, times it by the price per square foot. I will tell you the addition is about 10% of that. So that 200 square feet goes from 40,000 to 4,000 for value. So these are things we got to think about. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go over a packet. At a bare minimum, if you're the listing agent, you email it and you leave it on the counter in the listing. If you're a buyer's agent, you find out the contact of the appraiser and you email it over to him before they go to the property. Worst case scenario, the same day as going to the property, okay? So that's what this package is. This package has helped me win contracts. How does it help you win the offer? If my client really loves the home and we feel like we can justify where we're going to land on the sales price, on the contract price, I will actually say my buyer's given me permission to send you as a listing agent a package of why they feel as though the contract price is justified, so you can pass that along to the appraiser as well. And here's the comps we're going to be using and why. And if you're dealing with an analytical seller or listing agent, they love it. If you don't like it, they love it. You will win amongst others because you're going to help. When someone offers me list price or higher in a negotiable market, and I have one that may be like within 5,000, right? But they're like pulling all the stunts out. They're trying so hard. I'm going to tell my seller, this is what it, so we can go here, but let me ask the buyer's agent what they're prepared to do to help me justify that. And if they go, well, we deal with it when it comes up, I'm going to present it just like that. Well, they said they'll just deal with the appraisal once it comes. So I'm going to let you know right now as my seller, they're banking on this coming in lower. And if you go with the one for 5,000, at least we know I have someone who really loves the house and we're going to move forward and I can justify this here. If we go with this one, I don't care if they offer 10 grand more because it's not going to appraise. Now we can try it, we can what if it, and we can see what happens, but just know I'll probably fall out and this buyer might be gone by then. So what would you like to do? That's a negotiable market. Yesterday's market, which we're not in anymore, is everyone just waives the appraisal. That's been pulled out for about 3 months now. That actually pulled out before the market trends happened when it comes to interest rates. So we're gonna go over this package. Anybody have any questions so far? Yay! All right, so on Facebook Live, you should be able to see the package in front of you. The very first thing I want you to notice is that I have permission from my buyer, who was my mother, to give you a copy of this one. That's why I always go back to it, because if my mom sues me, my world's just over anyway. Let's face it, I'm going to cry and you will all need to put me in an insane asylum. So this is from a buyer perspective. The reason I'm giving you the one from the buyer perspective is because this is the perspective that's never thought about. Everyone's like, well, yeah, I'd do it for a seller if I was a listing agent, but no one thinks about doing it for a buyer. And Crystal, I love your hair today. Your makeup looks stunning. I thought. Thank you. So the first thing you want to see that I do, even if I don't like the human I'm going to be dealing with, is I thank them for their time. And I do a little bit, you know, I do the fluff. Don't forget to give the fluff. The fluff is short fluff, but nice fluff. My client is the buyer, and she has asked that I explain why she offered and went under contract at $350. And this was April. This house is up to like $395. I'm like, yay, finally a normaler market. She looked at many properties in the area closer to 400,000. This is true. Many properties she looked at throughout Goodyear and Litchfield Park north of the I-10 were not as maintained as the single family home she's purchasing. So I geographically mapped north of I-10. Why did I do that? Because what's south of I-10 does not compare to what's north of I-10. So I'm going to kind of talk macro of what she was looking at in the area, because is it true even in today's market, we usually show more than one house? I hope so. And by the way, I'm just going to tell you this from my experience. When they're like, I just love the first one, continue to show them properties before going under contract, because it's amazing how much they regret not seeing other things. So be like, I'm so glad you want this one. I'm going to make phone calls, see what time I need to get that offer in by. And let's just look at a couple more to make sure that you still love this one. Because when they have no comparable analysis in their head, they will always wonder what if. And it's horrible because then they blame us and blah, blah, blah. All right. Now, what I did here was I talked about the items that added value based on my buyer's perception. Look, I did it too today. And not all of these add value when we talk about price pointing. What the key concept was, what turned that buyer on about that house? What made them go, oh my God, I love this house? Like for this buyer, I can make up a lot of things because I kind of felt like I had that authority. But you can tell, right? Like they start saying things to you. Like I said, brand new exterior paint. Now, if you listen to the appraisers, they're going to say brand new exterior paint usually adds more value mentally to a buyer than even new windows, because it's a visual thing. Brand new kitchen stove and upgraded sink. Well, that was pretty standard for the area, but upgraded cabinetry with hardware and rollouts. You should have seen her. She would like open the cupboard. Now, she did buy a house in active adult. Now, do you think rolling cabinetry and active adult matters? Yeah, because that whole bending.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like awesome. And you know, honestly, in my house, it'd be very nice. 2018, there was a new HVAC and furnace. It's not brand new because this was 2021, so nothing's brand new. But I wanted to point out that the buyer felt as though that was an added value. So I will tell you right now, if it's working and it's 3 years old, there's no added value. But if you go down this list, you can see what would add value and what wouldn't add value. But the concept was, to the buyer, this was everything. And the corner lot with direct neighbors only to one side. See, that's a perception of who's appraising it, right? Because a corner lot could be, you are more likely to have someone park in your front yard than the next door lot. For some reason, my mom has bought corner lots my entire life, so it just cracks me up. And but for her, it's always been, well, I only have neighbors on one side. She loves corner lots. I'm like, you know what could be in her front yard, Mom? She said, yeah, what is that? Okay. So these are things that are a big deal to her. 2020, they added extra insulation in the attic. An appraiser would never see that. So I'm going off every little element I can to say, hey, this makes a difference. But then if you go down, you'll see that I will now start lining out my format. And please excuse typos. I am a human, and the only reason I know people read my stuff is because they correct it. Okay. It's subject property. I go over the square footage, bedrooms, den, bathrooms, garage, your built. I talk about the lot size because in a subdivision, does lot size matter?
Yes.
Yeah, because an oversized lot usually adds value. Now, I would argue that in active adult. But at the same time, you don't want something so small where you don't have room. I will say in active adult communities, having some kind of fence, even if it's chain link, usually does make a difference because of little dogs and stuff. And they do have coyotes here. They have coyotes everywhere and big owls. But your fence won't help with that. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, the joys we have after work of watching our world around us. And then I said sales price and then seller concessions was 0. Why does that matter? Because if there were concessions given, that would be automatically subtracted off the value for comparables. So if you were out there using a comparable that's $440,000 and you saw that they gave $15,000 worth of credit to the buyer, that just dropped to $425 for an appraiser. So I want you guys to mentally know that. That's why that's important. But then comparable 1, I did the exact same concept I did up here, right? About the house. It's 3,950 square feet larger in lot. So I'm not going to adjust for that. There's no adjustment for that. Sold for $369, no concessions, and within a month of the other one. Now my paragraph's going to talk about adjustments. My paragraph does not give amounts. Why? Because amounts are perspective of the one doing the price pointing or the value. There's no written book of amounts. There's always a range. Now, kind of look at what I said. This home was looked at as a comparable due to it being the same floor plan. That does matter, right? Year built in approximate comparable lot size. Value of the comparable was subtracted due to the subject property not being on the golf course. So I took off value from that 369. However, this lot is open to the golf course and does not provide any privacy because remember I pointed out the buyer likes privacy and that's why she's getting a corner lot. Also, the kitchen of the subject property, that should say, boasts a new gas range, cabinet hardware, and upgraded sink area, which would add value. So I spoke about it, but I didn't put amounts in. The moment you start putting amounts in, you have someone else, unfortunately, in our industry trying to say you're wrong. So don't put amounts in, say why you added value and subtracted value. You remember your terminology from last week? CBS, if the comparable is better, subtract. And SBA, if the subject is better, you add. So I just had that discussion, but I didn't give amounts. Also, if you give amounts in your listing presentations, they will hold you to it. Do not give ranges, have a discussion, but never put it in writing. We then did that on 2 more properties, one for 390 and one for 349. The one for 349 is a little bit under where I'm trying to get it price pointed at, right? The comparable 3 sold for 349. Has a much larger lot and it's a bit larger of a house. But what I talked about was why they should be adding value to it instead of subtracting value. Don't think leaving the one that's under out is going to help them not see it. Take it head on. So I said this property was used as a comparable based on the size being close to the subject property. The subject property is 3 years newer and boasts a stainless steel gas range with a matching built-in microwave. Further, the subject property has a neutral palette, window coverings, and new flooring and baseboards. Even though this property is slightly larger, the subject property has brand new paint, updated desert landscaping, and on a corner lot, which adds value. Because this one was ugly. This is the one you're like, good thing you were in the market that you wish on a candle, blow it out, and it happens. You know, but some people are willing to go in and paint, and some people are buying in this subdivision as second home. So they're like, I got time. So you got to kind of play all that in. But I talked about why it would add value. It then goes about market trend comparables. Please note, a pending or a UCB comparable will not add value. It talks about the trend of where the market's going.
So then I said, this property was listed at 361 and I called the listing agent. According to them, it sold for more. So it shows an upward trend in price for this floor plan in Eagles Nest side of Pebble Creek. If you know Pebble Creek is in Goodyear, Arizona, there's two sides. And this is why you need to know your communities, because each side does not compare to the other side. There is the east side, which is Eagles Nest, and it's divvied by Pebble Creek Parkway and the gates, like going to Luke Air Force Base before the bridge. And Eagles Nest side is older than Tuscany. Tuscany is the west side of Pebble Creek, and it's newer with a better clubhouse, supposedly. I like the Eagles Nest side. They just seem more down to earth and they'll play cards with me. The west side, they're like, you want to go golfing? I say no. They say pickleball. I said that sounds like exercise. Like, can we get on a different topic where I sit and look at cards? So you got to kind of know that I can't take what's on Tuscany and compare it to Eagles Nest. So just like a regular subdivision, within master plan communities, there's additional subdivisions within the subdivision. Okay, so I had to speak to it. Per the 1004 MC report, which we all love, right? Whoop, whoop. Do we need to go back over that today? I will. No one's saying, okay. There is, as a whole, has been less than 1 month of housing supply. This has gone down significantly since last quarter when there was nearly a month and a half of housing supply. The median list price of homes has fluctuated over the year, but is continually rising. Also, properties in Pebble Creek are now selling for 100% of list price, if not greater. I appreciate your time, right? So I'm like trying to sum it up. Here's what you're about to start seeing happen, Jordan, and here's where the scary part of our market's going. You're going to see what they call a declining market when you look statistically. I need you not to use the verbiage declining market. You need to use the verbiage stabilized, neutral, or negotiable. Hey, Alex, what's up, bud? Good to see you. Hey, Eric.
Neutral or what?
Neutral, negotiating, or stabilized. Negotiable or stabilized market. Because we're not declining in the way of price points spiraling downward out of control. We have stabilized the fair market value. So I would say instead of the overall Maricopa County being at 102% of list to sale value, we have now stabilized to fair market value.
You know, I've noticed in open houses that nobody has said the word recession at all.
Good.
Have you noticed that?
That's good.
Nobody is saying recession. Everything is just saying that the market is adjusting, but nobody is like brought up recession, inflation. It's been
Well, it's kind of like saying the word fraud.
right.
If someone looks at you and says, you can't fraud, you know, you're kind of like shut down. You're like, that was like really crazy. But if you say, it seems as though you've, not any of you, you have purposely misled us with the information you provided. It's the same thing. You get a different reaction, right? Recession was used so much on the news. It's still used on CNN. It's on NPR's podcast. It's like the economists love saying the terms that are just going to get like such a huge reaction.
Right.
But we're all able to adjust to what's happening. And but what's really sad is the inflation of Maricopa County for the first time I've lived here in 20 years is actually making people homeless, where they can't afford rent or, I mean, on any level. I mean, it's $4 a gallon basically at Fry's unless you hit the sale for milk.
Groceries, everything's $1 more.
Yeah, it's really, it makes me cry. I was like, wait a minute. I finally have my dream job. Where am I? And it's like, oh, the economy came up with me. It's like arguing with your 16-year-old who gets her first job. Mine's like, I'm demanding 15 an hour. I'm like, good luck. I used to work for 5.
Yeah. My
You know?
job is $4.75 camp concert.
Yeah.
$4.75.
And so you go back to that and you think how affordable even a candy bar used to be, right? And now Ashley's point is to me that fair market value, I mean, minimum wage needs to go up. And I'm trying to explain to her as someone who's lived life now, that even though when I was 16, I'd totally been on track with you. When you bump up minimum wage, everything inflates with it. So you're not offsetting anything. You're harming yourself. And what did we have 2 years ago? We had one of our biggest hikes in minimum wage in Arizona. And we've seen a big offset and no one talks about that anymore. And that's one of the things I'm like, just get in there, work for peanuts and just get raises and stop inflating my market. Keep my milk stabilized. So I base everything on milk. You might base it on almond milk, oat milk, or other milks. When bread and milk are unaffordable, we have issues. But I love that you said that, like, no one says recession. Okay, so now we're, now you go to the next page in your book. What I would like to point out to you is that you have this amazing map. Why is it amazing? Because it's pinpointing what properties you just utilized and talked about. Please note, the number one, the one that says 1 is my subject. After you check properties in MLS, if you go to the selected side of what you check, you can actually drag and drop them in the order that you want to talk to them about them in. So everything is synchronized. Don't be all over the place for me, you know, like make sure it's like, okay, I'm talking about 2, 3, 4. That was comp 1, 2, and 3. And then 5 was my market trend. Okay. And then I'm going to go down and you're going to see every MLS plano is listed here. Why? Because the appraiser has access to MLS. So why not just make life better? And so you're going to see that listed. I gave you an example of that. And then when you get all the way down to the last page, I'm going to put in that 1004 MC report. I was very lucky to be showing an upward market. What I'd like to point out to you in an upward market is you see my absorption rate for the market is down compared to the month before. This is now up. So what I need you to talk about is per the National Association of Realtors statistics, anywhere between 3 and 6, well, actually it's 4 and 6 months housing supply is called a stable or neutral negotiable market. When you have under 4 months housing supply, which we do, you're still in a seller's market. So instead of saying inclining market, we need to change our vocab. Do not say declining. The moment an appraiser turns in an appraisal report that says declining market, that is loan denial. John, can you speak to 2007 for me?
It was ugly. We started the year pretty good, but April of 07 markets tanked. Values fell off a cliff for the next 2-3 years.
And so what happened when you got appraisals back that said declining? Did you get an approval? Did you get a way to go around it? Like I really, anytime I had declining, I had to fight it so hard to remodel that sucker just to get financing.
Yeah, financing was hard.
So we
There's
need,
no doubt.
we definitely need to be having these discussions in a different way. So you set the stage, you set the expectation. Because could an appraiser's mindset be with CNN News? Yes, I guarantee you it is. They like flashing numbers all day long. They just like that little red arrow going down and everything. I'm like, what is wrong with you? I'd be miserable in it. Come out. Also, it talks about your sales prices. Look, my sales price went down, but my list price was lower that month, right? So what went under contract that month is based on what closed the next month. And then I look at my list price is up here. So then that means the next quarter I pull, you're going to see a higher sales price because it's based on what went under contract here, because it was still selling at 100% of list value. Now, this is based on a seasonal market. Pebble Creek is 55 plus. You can tell me right now, if you pull it, even if we were still in a frenzy market, you're not going to have what you typically have in October when it comes to price points being higher. Like seasonality of second home buyers is under 100 degrees, they'll come. When we hit 3 digits, they're gone. And sometimes like right now, they just complain a lot, so they don't want to be here. They're like, I wanted muggy, I would have stayed in Florida. Like, how nice that you have 2 summer homes. So you want to just think about these items. Right now, you're going to see this say 102%. You're going to see this say 100%. Don't be afraid of that. That is not a declining market. That is, we are still at fair market value. Okay, and maybe something you add to that last paragraph is throughout my time of being a realtor, I have noticed in the past 2.5 years, people were paying an inflated amount over appraised value. In today's market, buyers and sellers are all on the same page with appraised value being fair market value. We really look forward to receiving back the report. Thank you for your time. You know, just adding little things for expectations, but did you see how short my paragraphs were? You see how bullet pointed it was? If you write an essay like they taught us in high school, God, I hate doing their homework sometimes. No one will read it. When people send me
paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs. I have to read it, it's my job. But at the end of the day, it doesn't, like, I can't remember what you said in paragraph 3 by the time I get to paragraph 5, you know, if you're following the structure where there's 5 sentences per paragraph. You have a beginning, a transition, and an ending, and then we transition to the next paragraph. Don't do that. Just go bullet point yourself, you know, get to your point. And so always keep it short and brief so they will read what you put out. Any questions? Does anybody need me to redo 1004 MC for them so you get walk through it? Have no fear, I'll do it.
Pretty much
Crystal
have
said, yeah.
it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna do it for Crystal real fast. Because, but tell me the area you want me to do it in. You want Anthem? Sure. You live in Anthem. Okay, so we're just gonna look at Anthem. Now, would you agree with me that there's 2 sides of Anthem? There's the luxury side and the not luxury side. It's like Fountain Hills. There's the side with the fountain. And there's the side without the fountain. I'm joking, it all has a fountain. But actually, there's a side of Fountain Hills that has homes that are built down the mountain.
Yeah.
And they just have viewpoints, and then there's the regular side. So you always have to know those things, but let's just redo market trends real fast and we'll look at Anthem, because Anthem and North Peoria are about to go off the chart growing again. So you guys need to get out there, go up there, see things. So if I go quick search, you go what? Active through close. We go back an entire year. You do your dwelling types. We're just gonna look at single family. And then we're gonna just say Anthem. We could have put in a zip code. Now, here's the one thing I'll do too. You guys might not like this. If my subdivision does justify declining, I will leave the subdivision for my appraisal report there, and I'll do more of a macro look. So if I go in and it's like definitely declining in that one subdivision, which can happen, I will macro expand it to talk about a stabilized market. I'm just gonna put that out there. That is called the power of the author. And then I go Anthem. I see there's 585 homes. I then say CMA, use all results. And then the only one, because of the amount, should be statistical left. I will let you know in other MLSs, this is called a one-line report. So if you say statistical MLS when you're trying to talk to like a referral agent and they don't know what you're talking about, like go to like a one-line report. I always take out total stats because that's just a little confusing in comparison to the 1004. And then view. And so that shows you exactly almost of what we just talked about, but check that out. Anthem is still rocking. So yeah, we have 2.5 months of housing supply, which is what kind of market? Sellers. We went from 546 as our median to 614. But look, the median list price was only 600 at the time, and their list prices jumped to 641, and they're still selling at 100% of list value. So where do you want to be right now? Anthem. Go do open houses in Anthem. You know, like that is an awesome market. Because if you did Phoenix, we're just over 3 months housing supply, and things are sitting a little longer because you feel a harder inner city, where Anthem feels like a little more of an outlying area. Because if you think about it, it's on our way up to Black Canyon City, Prescott, all that good stuff. No one really stops in Black Canyon City. I'm just joking. It's a great place to be. I don't sell there. I don't like the word alternative Stewart. I did find out why I don't sell in Flagstaff. If I didn't share it with you guys last time, there's something called a baffle or something they call it, which is your septic tank. It's on these stilts and it's outside the ground. I will not sell there now. I will know I always will have a realtor in the area represent me and take a referral fee if I ever want to move there. Because I want to make sure my poop goes to the water company. You know?
That's not all of Flagstaff.
No, but the fact that it's even there freaks me
But
out.
yeah, I had friends who used to haul water. Like we used to have to like not flush the toilets and stuff like that because like the water tank was low.
Oh yeah, and Craig's cabin and parks, they have hauled water. No, there's only one person that's staying at that cabin, so she was like, "Can you do the dishes? You can leave the water out." And I was like, no. I'm not costing you people coming up here if it's raining or snowing. So things to know, right? Lots of things to know. But this is a really good thing to be pulling. You can even do it on the subdivisions that you're farming. And think about like, how am I going to get this out there better? How can I spread the word that it's not so scary? How do I keep them off CNN, CNBC, all the things on the TV? How do I keep them off the TV and the radio and to me?
And with that today, guys, I've enjoyed my morning with you. Welcome to Monday. Let's rock out the week. We have tons of trainings this week. Next week on August 9th is our office meeting at 10 a.m. And we actually have rec title training right after the office meeting upstairs. This week on August 4th, I saw on Facebook, so I posted it on your private group. Justin Taylor will be hosting a adjustment to your business plan in the shifting market, or the shifted, let's just say shifted market. So please attend and get back up and energized and going.
All right, thank you. Get off this and
Do you have to rush into something